Welcome to the Nicole Small Show, where we give you straight talk with no chaser. Here, we discuss issues from the White House to your house. And now, here's your host, Nicole Small.
Can you see me? I don't know. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Nicole Small Show. Today is Monday, the 30th. Is today the 30th? It sure is. So that means we're already into September. So we're going to have a short show today. I have a couple things going on today. So I have an event for the campaign. Also, don't forget today at 11 o'clock in front of the federal building. And I don't know the address. I just know how to get there. So let me find that out. In front of the federal building, there will be a press conference hosted by Anthony Adams and members of the community who are fed up with the corruption in city government. Again, today at 11 a.m. in front of the federal courthouse, there will be a press conference. There's a rally against the corruption that continues to take place in front of city government. So if you're tired of it and you want to address the issue, you need to be there. Either you're going to be silent about it as residents who see that there's a pattern of behavior of public dollars that have been allocated for the best use for you. 477 Michigan. Thank you so much, TJ, for that. 477 Michigan. Either you tired of it, you see that there's a pattern of behavior, both at the executive, city council, and the mayoral level, the executive branch, and you're going to let them know that you're not going to tolerate it anymore, or you're just going to sit by and be complicit. The choice is yours. We have been talking about these things for quite some time. Don't know if, I guess I'm really not clear on why it takes for the FBI to come and raid the homes of two more elected officials on city council and to raid their offices for people to say, oh, well, what is going on down there? They literally have been making conscious decisions, well-informed decisions. Okay, these aren't mistakes. To siphon off the public dollars that are allocated to actually improve your neighborhoods. You know, these neighborhoods and these communities that you keep complaining about, how the sidewalks are raggedy, how you have so much speeding up and down the street, and you get a speed bump instead of getting real public safety to mitigate the amount of, you know, speeding could result in death. The speeding that they're doing up and down the street. I just want to just say that, right? Like, you know, a kid, a person could get killed. You know, the person who's speeding, driving like 60 plus miles an hour down just a residential block, you know, that can result in a severe amount of harm. Just saying. And we just gonna allow them to give you speed bumps. The same government entity, both the mayor and the city council, who 4 days after what some of us know is a man-made disaster because they intentionally didn't open up the drains, caused severe flooding. 4 days after that, the same council and mayoral administration that allocated more than $800 million and not $1 went to any relief for any of those people who had experienced that severe flooding. Not $1 went to relieve those people whose cars had been towed from the freeway. And there was a news story about how people were paying like these exorbitant fees to get their car back. Not $1 went to them to help them get their car back. Most people was paying more fees than what the car was worth. Let's just be honest. Or just as much. You know, that same city government that did that 4 days after, that same city government that people who still probably houses smell like dog crap, right? From the sewage and the feces that was floating in their house. They didn't even allocate $1 to them. When allocated $50 million to the Joe Louis Greenway to 20-something million to streetscapes, another 20-something million to bike lanes. That government that did that 4 days after. Now, mind you, people still had standing water that day, 4 days after, and then 4 days after that, they still had sewage and stuff, floating in their house. And that government said, screw you. And then allocated, let me see, up to $82 million in administrative fees. But you already have an administrative to do the work where the money is being directed. So usually you have these administrative costs. That means that you're going to hire, a new group of people to perform the functions, since you have more money, like you create new departments. You gonna hire new people, so now you have a better response time when constituents are calling in about issues. But if you call City Hall right now, you still get what? No answer. You still get no answer. And they just allocated $82 million in administrative fees. That city government, yeah. That city government where a lot of this money, this 80-some million, and then another, I don't know, tens of $1 million gonna go in consultant fees. Yeah, they did that to you 4 days after that flood. After years of enduring all type of egregious behavior and being dismissed, and every time you ask for something simple in your neighborhood, they want to know where they're gonna get the money from. That city government, the same city government that took $300 and something million when they were supposed to tear down homes, didn't do it then, gave away contracts to suburban contractors, and then doubled down on proposal in, suckered y'all into believing that this $250 million was going to go towards demolition, and the same houses is still standing. That city government, and gave it to some more contractors that were not Detroit-based businesses. That city government, all of these contracts floating around, the same city government that has ran amok on you with these streetscapes, like over there on 6 Mile and Livernois, because that's just the stupidest crap I've ever seen in my life. And they paid somebody to do that. That city government, out of your money. That's city government. So you shocked? Now it's the issue because the FBI hasn't even charged them with anything yet, right? So for me, you have to ask yourself, are we operating, City Hall operating as a government or a gang? Because you think about it, in a gang, you have an initiation process, right? And it's usually to do harm to somebody. Pretty much. Most of these people was doing harm when they was running campaigns. That's why they got those problems, right? So that was the initiation, and then they get elected, and Doug can send somebody to talk to them, or either they go and talk to them, or you know what? He sends some corporate interests to talk to them and contractors, and then they make this deal behind the scenes to do what? Represent the best interest of others instead of constituents. So that's the initiation process, right? Let's see if you're going to take the bait. They take the bait, right? They take the bait. And so that's the initiation. And then once you pass the initiation process, right, then, hey, the gloves is off. Now, I don't know if they get branded or whatever they get over there. I don't know. And usually you have a leader, right, of the gang who's established the rules and telling you what to do, and who's the biggest benefactor. Not to mention, if the stuff go down, you're not going to tell on them. You going to take the heat. Yeah. Pretty much seem like City Hall being ran like a gang to me. And by any means necessary, you going to go along with them rules, and you don't care who you harm. So let's talk about what is really taking place in this city government. So, you voted to increase water rates when you know that the fees were already an exorbitant amount that Detroiters couldn't afford to have access to clean, safe, affordable water. Yep. You voted to increase water rates when you knew we had a high level of lead in the water, and that these shutoffs would do what? Increase the rate of hepatitis A, which could do what? Cause harmful health conditions to Detroiters. Yep, y'all did that. And so then, oh, wait a minute. And you voted to give away the water, but that's a whole nother thing. You voted to support your leader's proposal to have unaffordable housing, but to lie to the people and to run this trick on them to steal their property or to steal away access to affordable housing. Yep, sounding more and more like a game to me. So what you did was you took the money from the public to give to developers, right? To give to developers in order for them to get the hookup on tax subsidies and purchasing land for below market value. And you took that from the people who needed affordable housing and gave it to these rich people so you could get some type of benefit on the back end, right? And then the people just go without housing. Don't when the gangs be coming into the neighborhoods and stuff, they steal businesses and housings because y'all took businesses away from people too. Yeah, you did that. You did that. You did that. Sure did. City council and the mayor's office, you did that. Because I know that you took businesses because you took my brother's business. Rent was paid. What did you do? You went through the courts because you had a relationship with the courts and had 3 judges. Might just so happen all 3 of the judges come from where? Grosse Pointe? Yeah. And you made sure that a business that was operating illegally, but because they was working with you, could stay in operation. And then my brother's business where the rent was paid up and they were operating, being compliant with permits and licensing and everything, you just snatched that right on the way where he had a lease. That's gang mentality. I'm telling you, you just take folks' businesses and you take people's houses and then you were overtaxing them. See, so you know how like when the gang or the mob is in the neighborhood and you got to pay that extra fee to be operating or whatever. And so because they run in the streets, and so you overcharge the people for property taxes and you knew it and you did it anyway and you took them people's houses. And you did that. You did that. Yeah. And you're still doing it. And you're still doing it. So what are we dealing with here? Are we dealing with government? Or are we dealing with a gang? Because the lines seem to be very blurred to me. So I don't understand why it takes for an FBI raid for people to give pause to, oh, wait a minute, what's really going on? Look at the way that they've been treating you. Look at the way that they've been treating you. And see, so I believe in due process because, see, I don't like what happened to John Conyers, how, the CBC got up there and, they wanted him to resign. But let me tell you something about the difference right here. You got a government. You got Scott Benson. Man, you know what's funny? Wasn't it just here recently that both Benson and Ayers was holding up some type of proposal about the towing company right before they went on recess? Y'all remember that? Interesting, right? Interesting. But I do believe in due process. I do believe, especially in this system that we have, a government being black, that you innocent until proven guilty. But let me be clear about something. That same energy that both Spivey, Ayers, Leland, the rest of them who are engaged in this behavior gave to Detroiters when they had an opportunity to make sure that Detroiters had access to clean, safe, affordable water, said, screw you. The same energy that they gave to Detroiters to make sure that they had access to real affordable housing, to where an AMI, an average median income, would be more aligned with the average income of Detroiters, which is around $27,000 a less, right? You said, screw you, and I'm going to support the average income in order for you to be eligible to be more around $55,000 a year. Yeah. That same energy that you gave me, you didn't give a damn about where Detroiters who have been here, a lot of who voted for you because they don't know no better, voted for all of y'all up there going against their interests. You know, that same energy and empathy and compassion that you have for those people, the same empathy and compassion, because we're going to really talk about, is it the FBI raid or is it the behavior of these council people, that how they've been conducting themselves, right? To disempower and further disenfranchise the majority of communities across the city of Detroit. Because see, it's that for me. It's that behavior for me, not the FBI coming and raiding them. It's that type of behavior and energy for me, right? So you set up there cold and callous and with a smug look on your face, and you know they always real nasty acting and dismissive. So let's just really talk about what type of, you get what you give in this world. You get what you give in this world. Be clear about that. The same energy you gave when we came to you and we talked about having the city go into more debt, taking advantage of Detroiters who don't know what proposal land is about. Remember that same energy that you gave? Huh? Remember that? Because see, when we was first $250 million, what you did was, Janae, Northspike, neither one of y'all voted. We only had 6. The 6th person was who? Oh, wait, it was Tate and Roy McAllister, but I ain't letting them off the hook either. They did that one thing, right? Then turned right back around and undid it. Well, Tate didn't, but that's another issue. That same energy you gave to Detroiters and said, screw you. I know they're not going to use this proposal land money to really tear down the homes that need to be torn down in the city of Detroit. That's what you did. And you didn't care about how you were poisoning the community of your constituents, right? You lied to them. You lied to them. And you knew that black contractors wasn't going to get the contracts, because you know what? You turned right around. And when those Detroit-based businesses were supposed to be number one to get the contracts, you went along with this consolidating all of these other contractors. You did that. When you knew that developers were getting tax subsidies and tax credits, right, to build unaffordable housing, and they were going to be studio apartments, and you know that Detroiters needed access to real affordable housing. The majority of them are seniors on a fixed income, and the other ones are people with children. And what they going to do with a studio apartment? You said screw you too. You did that. You did that. When it came time to forgive $1.8 million in property taxes for a slumlord that doesn't even live here, that was housing people in deplorable conditions, you forgave that $1.8 million. Turn right around, and don't forget the proposal resolution that I submitted to give Detroit some relief. Some relief. You wasn't even going to get your property taxes forgiven. It's set in the Economic Growth Committee chaired by Janae Ayers. It's set there, and we didn't hear another thing about it. You did that to Detroiters. You didn't even have the decency to think that we have a right to be given some relief. But when it came time for Dan Gilbert to get $300-some million in tax subsidies for his dream development down there on Woodward, you did that. When it came time to sell off the state fairgrounds to Ross Perot's company in Texas, and you overlooked so many Detroit developers who could have gotten some of that land, you said screw them. You did that. When it came time to sell the Broadhead Armory for $300,000 measly damn dollars, you didn't even call one black person. You went on ahead and just gave it to the Detroit Parade Company. Now, that was just about a month ago. You did that. You did that. So you have created a barrier, and you have excluded black and brown and poor people who are in need from access to affordable housing, from access to affordable water, from access to economic opportunities. That's what you did. We got $1 billion sitting on the table. Where are your line items to really make sure that Detroiters have access to an adequate amount of funding for home repairs, right? You didn't care. You put more money into a Joe Louis Greenway than you do into making sure the Detroiters can keep their homes to be habitable. And you just so easily just went right on through $1 billion on the table. Then you don't even talk about that other 180 million. You don't talk about how it was $860 million on the table when it came here. But by the time May came, when you had to negotiate the appropriations, it was only $826 million. You did that to us. And you just did it. You just did it. And let's be clear about something. Let's be real clear. This whole, well, you know, they shouldn't take a look at just, you know, these two people, because that's what I heard them saying on Let It Rip Sunday. We shouldn't take a look at just these two people. You know, we should look at the whole issue, and especially if it's about towing. I agree with you. Open up the floodgates about towing. I agree. That's one statement I agree with Karen Dumas and that Greg guy. Don't even get me started. Greg Bowens, who over there supporting ML Elry. Here he goes, slighting another black sister again, right? Not gonna get into that today. But let's just be honest. It's not just two. This is a pattern of behavior. So it went from Leland, who been sitting up there for 3 years, right? And if everybody, he was the real movie, the syndication, The Wire. Because once you knew that they had him on tape, how could you be doing anything else? But for 3 years, they knew that Gabe Leland was under federal investigation, and they continued to make these deals with these corporations and to sell off and to give away the interest of the people. That's what these others did. Then it went to Spivey. So when people talk about, oh, why would they do that during an election year? I get it. It doesn't seem right. But let's be clear. They knew that Andre Spivey was under federal investigation, and you still do. Why did you run? Why did you run? This towing issue has been an issue for so long. We've been talking about it with these contracts. You talking about grand bargaining and the grand hustle. That's the grand hustle right there. But you did that. You knew that these people were sitting up here under federal investigation. So the first person who talked gonna usually get the deal. So that's Gabe. So he didn't get any jail time. Then Andre Spivey, the quote in the paper from his high-priced attorney, Elliot Hall, said, well, he thought that he was done. You know, because he had been cooperating for 15 months. 15 months, hello, that's over a year. He's been cooperating, I'm just saying. And you see that Andre Spivey decided not to run. Didn't he? Probably, because most people know when the feds are coming that they're going to tell you do not run for re-election. But these two geniuses ran anyway. These two geniuses ran anyway. So let's talk about, I don't understand how the writing is on the wall. If these two geniuses that just were rated did anything inappropriate and illegal, if they did, and you decided to run anyway, knowing good and doggone well that you had at least one colleague that was under federal investigation, and you know he only had 2 years probation. I mean, my goodness gracious. Now, you know he had to be in there. The Mississippi Mass Choir didn't have nothing on the singing that Gabe Leland had to be doing, okay? Now, we just know that. And Spivey, too. Because he didn't even think that they were going to continue to come after him, because as they stated, he thought that everything was taken care of. Obviously not. So he must have had to give them something. That's probably why they showed up. I don't know. I understand that everybody want to save themselves. I don't expect nothing different. Why would I expect any different from these people when they've been selfish the entire time? That's what I'm saying. But if we're going to talk about that, for me, the FBI investigation, they haven't been charged with anything. My issue is your behavior towards the people was good enough for you to not run again, is what I'm saying. Haven't you done enough to destroy the interest of the people? And what's going to happen to all of these endorsements? SEIU, UAW. I remember when I was at the UAW screening, you know what they asked me? Is there anything that you have done, okay, any egregious behavior that you've engaged in or anything that you have done that would be illegal. They asked you about filing bankruptcy. They asked you, is there anything that would come up in investigation? Now, that's what they asked me. I know Janae Ayers went for a screening. I think Scott Benson did too. So what you gonna do now? All of these with free press and the news, you talking about how great everybody is, huh? But you know how that go. They with Duggan, so they probably not gonna say anything. See, these people don't want the best interest of you. One group wants you to fight for 15, but then they gonna sit up here and they don't support the people who gonna fight for the people. I'm just saying, like, there's a problem here. There is a problem here. The enabling of this type of treatment to the people. There's a problem here. Let's take a caller and then we're going to go to our guest. Good morning. Welcome to the Nicole Small Show.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, Nicole. This is really incredible. I wanted to just mention that there was an article that was circulating, and I couldn't tell who the author was, but it was very well researched about these towing contracts and what's going on with it. I posted it to my Facebook, but it really looks as if there aren't going to be any city council members left standing after these investigations. There's another thing I'm going to say about this on the race issue, and I'm just gonna say this. And I make a lot of enemies talking about this, but in the Latino community, there is a lot of favor given. I don't need to tell a lot of people this, but there really is a lot of preference given to Latinos over Black people. And it's very interesting to see how the media is treating the first Latina ever on the Detroit City Council.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how dark, light, short, fat, Indian, it doesn't matter how the person looks, because there's all that skin drama in the Latino community also.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter how that person looks, they still have what's called white adjacent privilege. It means not Black. And the person can be darker than a Black person. It's not skin.
Mm-hmm.
It's culture. It's the fact that we have a culture that is favored by white people, especially the nonprofits and the philanthropists. And this is something that I've been talking about in our community for a long time, and people get really angry about when I raise this, because the school takeovers were based on the nonprofits being able to get a lot of the contracts without having to go through the school board. When I posted these things on Facebook, I was completely attacked by a lot of people that I don't know, because I have a public page. But when I looked at who was attacking me, it was Detroit Parent Network people. It was all those people that were in the schools. And I got a lot of pushback from people that feel like they do good work in the schools. But this is who was behind the school takeovers.
Wow.
And Raquel was part of that. She escorted Judge Rhodes through the schools and went with him on trying to take the schools over during the bankruptcy. And now she has brought her friend, who was also part of the same nonprofit. I'm just saying that I don't care if this makes enemies. The right to vote has to be, it's sacrosanct. The right to be able to vote who your school board is something that all the white districts get, but somehow it doesn't matter here.
Because they fight for it. Because they fight for it, Elena. They literally fight for it. Now, they claim the Charter Commission was fighting. No, they were literally physically fighting. So that's why they get it. And they fight in a fighting block, right? You don't have those who are being negatively impacted going against those who are fighting for their well-being, sitting up here challenging them. You don't have that. That's why it works in the suburban school districts. They have zero tolerance for this type of behavior. You know, like right now, let's see how many people gonna come out today and gonna tell the media that they demand for city council to suspend the privileges of those. We should have been having these privileges suspended in the first place, because of how they were conducting themselves at the table. So you wonder why the suburbs get it. This is one instance where I'm not going to say, oh, the suburbs are just getting like how they get the better rates for water and everything, but that is because we give it to them. But it's because they don't tolerate this crap. They just don't. They don't. But We'll see you.
This is something. This is something that I want to just raise up. I don't trust the nonprofits involved in Detroit politics. I don't trust you of them sending their colonial overseers to run for office in Detroit. This is constantly going to be a problem until we have people that are from here taking up this battle. We have to have people that are from here taking up this battle. And
well, we'll see today.
Whenever you see it, I invite people to look at the battles that go on my Facebook page. And I know Facebook isn't everything, but I got a public page, and I really invite you to see who attacks me, because it tells you everything.
Well, a lot of them don't even live in the city. Okay, a lot of them are just supporting this corporate interest, and a lot of them don't live in the city, and they love this pathway to least resistance that has been created for them to come in here and enjoy more benefits of the city than those who live here. That's why. That's the majority. That's also the majority of people who are debating with you on your show. But thanks. Let me get to my guest, Elena. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Good morning, Mr. Davis. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
So I wanted to bring you on today because of the recent events last week with the FBI raids and some of the news articles, and even the mayor has spoken out, because he's going to fix this towing contract issue when he's the one. Let's just go back. The same mayor who's gonna fix it is the person who created the problem, because remember when he got Conrad Mallett elected to make sure that he did only one thing. Conrad only had one directive, okay? And that was to make sure he supports the towing contract vote over there on the Board of Police Commissioners. Conrad Mallett did that. Then he resigned from the Board of Police Commissioners after supporting the towing contract, and then went over to become what? The deputy mayor. The same, and he was already deputy mayor for Kwame for 27 out of the 28 charges that Kwame ended up getting. Thank goodness he out, because Conrad didn't even go to jail. So that same Conrad Mallett, but the media never talks about that part, right? So walk us through, there was a lot of, you could tell, contention at the table. One thing about the opposition that I will say for Duggan and his cronies, they're patient, right? They'll sit here and they'll act as if, we want to know, how do you feel about this? And, well, here are the pros and the cons, when the whole time the deal is already done. So when it was presented to the Board of Police Commissioners, talk about how the contracts got there, and then tell us what exactly was on the table.
Well, at one time before we did away with our subcommittees, there was a subcommittee on towing. You know how many people was on the subcommittee for towing?
How many?
One. You know who that was?
Willie Bell.
Willie Bell. The towing king. Personally, I think there's going to be more people come up out of this, and I think more people should be looked at more closely, be they city council people or Board of Police Commissioners.
Mm-hmm.
And some people was like surprised and upset about the city council people that was visited by the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
9 times out of 10, when the FBI publicly visits you, especially during the election cycle, they have a lot on you. And I think it's probably going to be another city council person or two. And I hope that the ones that they talk to, I hope they tell something on a bigger fish.
Wow. Well, I don't know. So that's a conversation too, right? About, will the next set of allegedly compromised council people began to speak to who their leader is? And I told you, in a game, you just take the fall, right? They'll go after their colleagues first. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. How much was this contract for, the towing contract? I want to make sure that the people understand what we had on the table.
Well, all of these contracts represent millions of dollars. And, in fact, there's a towing association. There's a whole lot of people come together, organized and disorganized, dealing with tolling. Personally, I've always thought that we shouldn't be involved with that, and that it should be more more light should be on it because it's and we have towing representatives regular at our meetings. I mean, regular at our meetings.
So do you think some of these towing contractors contribute to some of your colleagues? Do they?
Yes.
You know what? Nobody ever talks about looking at the campaign finance for police commissioners. That's interesting. And you're telling me that they used to have a subcommittee just for towing. I want to make sure that the listeners understand that. And it was one person on there, and that was Commissioner Willie Bell. Well, that's interesting. I wonder if they're going to look into him and his behavior. That's not even a committee.
Well, that's what he called it. And also, in fact, it only stopped because I went to him. I told him, now this looks really stupid. Looks like you're corrupt, And if this doesn't change, I'm going to say something. He knows I don't mind saying stuff. Because, he's like a weasel, because I've called him a bully and a coward before in the meeting.
We definitely have seen the bullying tactics at that table.
Right, he used them a lot on Willie Burton, Commissioner Burton. He tries to intimidate and scare people. The more somebody tries to intimidate and scare me, the more I want to fight them.
No, then they'll be talking about that you like the charter commission because they swear we was fighting at the table. No, so we have millions. Each one of these contracts are worth millions of dollars. Did anyone say anything when those people's cars were towed from the freeway and they were charging these exorbitant fees? See, that's another thing that I take issue with, is the fact that we have people who just recently, due to a man-made disaster, because that degree of flooding could have been avoided, right?
I know better than most about that could have been avoided.
Right. So that could have been avoided, and you turn around and these people are charged, these victims, they're victims, right? These victims are charged these exorbitant fees just to get their cars back. Like, does the police commission even take a look at that?
That they haven't. We should. Because that's to me, that was a man-made emergency because of poor planning, poor management, poor leadership.
Well, I think that something should have been discussed about that. Definitely at the following police commission meeting. And so now we're going to come back into recess. Is it next week? Wait a minute. When does city council? Yeah, they come back next Tuesday, which would be the 7th, I believe. Do you think that this will have any impact on how Detroiters will respond? Will they attend the meeting? More importantly, do you think that we'll hear a statement from either elected official who was just raided? Because now Andre Spivey did have his attorney to make a statement for him, right? That's what you're supposed to do. Don't go out here speaking for yourself. But I think they're going to just conduct business as usual, like they did before when Gabe Leland was under investigation, because neither Ayers or Benson have been indicted. Neither one has been indicted. Their homes and their offices and both of their chief of staff homes have been raided in offices. So just want to be clear about that.
You know what I think the city council.
That's 4 people. That's a lot of people, Mr. Davis. That's 4 people.
I think the first thing that the city council is going to do, they're going to follow what the Board of Police Commissioner did, and they're going to vote not to have public meetings. They're in-person meetings. They're going to go to virtual meetings for the rest of the year.
They don't want to see us. They don't want to see us.
No, the Board of Police Commissioners, we just had a vote where we voted to go to virtual meetings from September to the end of December.
But don't you find that interesting that the Board of Police Commissioners, now they want to go back in hiding, the majority of them, when they know that these towing contracts have resurfaced again? And let's just be honest, the FBI has not left here addressing this issue. It's not that they came back just for, and people keep saying 2 elected officials. I'm like, we're up to 4 council people. And if things go the way that people are saying they're going, that they're not done with council, if they get 1 more person, that's it.
And
That's five.
it's amazing. All four
That's
of the
no
people
quorum. We're gonna have
all,
a quorum of corruption. We're not gonna have a quorum of council.
all four of the people that's involved, all four are rubber stamps for Duggan. There's a
Yes,
major
they are.
connection there.
But Duggan is still like Elton John. He's still standing. You understand what I'm saying? After all of this time, he's still standing. I'm telling you, it's just something about it. I don't know.
You say like the Teflon Don? You did say Teflon Don, didn't you?
He's still standing.
And the
You have to
Teflon
give
Don
him
was a criminal too, though, right?
That's what, listen, you and what I'm saying, it's very dangerous when you have four different people. No, did they get Andre Spivey? Yeah, they got his chief of staff too. That was person A. So if you think about it, we really have 6 people who have to cooperate with the feds right now. That's a lot of people. Just think about this. You have Councilperson Ayers, and Councilperson Ayers' chief of staff. That's 2. You have Councilperson Spivey, his chief of staff. That's 4. Councilman Benson and his chief of staff. That's 6 people who have to cooperate with the feds right now. It's gonna have to be some. I mean, now everybody has to fight to survive to make sure that they don't go down on a Titanic.
All right, somebody's gonna cut a deal. Somebody's
Everybody not innocent. I don't believe everybody is in it. That's 6 people. That's a gang. That's a gang, right? 6 people. That's 6 people. And then that's 6 more people because they already got Gabe Leland. That's a lot of people. I don't know. Some people think that they're gonna get the big fish, but I don't know, Commissioner Davis. He seems to come off unscathed all the time. Maybe it is a matter of time, but you know, what about these other contracts? And I think that this is going to, so if you start off with the towing contracts, right? It always starts off with one thing and then evolves to so much more. Think about these, they talking about billboards are an issue, getting billboards for council people. They're saying that also there's another issue with, you know, maybe other contributors. So that means other probably corporate interests, developers or whatever. We never know. Like, this is just messy. But I will say, right now we have 4 council people of interest. One more council person would mean that the city council can't conduct any more corrupt business, right? Because they're not conducting business that's benefiting the people.
They're corrupting.
So
they're doing corrupt business.
It'd be a quorum of criminals, not a quorum of council. And I don't know if the people will be any worse off. Because if you look at their voting record, they're not voting for us. Let's take a caller because we only have a few more minutes. Good morning. Welcome to the Nicole Small Show. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you turn the show down because I'm hearing the background? Okay, go ahead.
I sure will. Commissioner Davis, this is Ruben Crowley. How you doing this morning, sir?
Hello there.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. He said hello. Okay, go ahead, Ruben. You got a question or comment?
Yes, the comment is about OCI interim chief Lawrence Akbar. I have a 20-minute recording of him totally disregarding his oath, Detroit City Charter, and his job description and advocating it to Willie Bell. Also have a recording of Melanie White, the executive board secretary. Now, these recordings have been played at the Board of Business meeting. So, Mr. Davis, I wanted to present those to you so you can bring them directly to the board at the next meeting. The recording of Lawrence Akbar demonstrates his allegiance to Willie Bell and the fact that the OCI is corrupt. They do sham investigation, and citizens of Detroit are being disenfranchised and not served at all. The recording of Danya Underwood and Ellen Snipe both demonstrate their allegiance to Willie Bell. Willie Bell has been sitting on the Board of Commissioners in the chairman's seat and totally disregarding the citizens of Detroit. There's an investigation.
Okay, come on. Listen, we only got like 12 minutes left. Tie it up. What does this have to do with the corruption in city council and the towing? Bring it on home for us.
It's all interconnected. Scott Benson himself called over to the OCI on my behalf and the Board of Police Commission. Melanie White answered the phone when I was on the phone. When she heard my voice, she hung up. Scott Benson was witness to this. And after that conversation with Scott, I have never heard from Scott Benson again. I believe Scott Benson is totally complicit in what's going on over at the Board of Police Commissioners, and Willie Bell, Lawrence Akbar knows directly that there's been deceit and corruption going on at the Board of Police Commission. And I want to bring that attention to all of your viewers, Nicole.
Okay.
Commissioner Davis, can you please provide a way where we can get directly in touch with you?
Okay, I'll have him to give out his number. No problem, Ruben. Thank you so much. You have a good one, okay?
You as well.
Take care. Commissioner Davis, can you let him know how to get in touch with you?
He has gotten in touch with me, and we have talked. In fact, I have talked. Also, he has played part of that conversation during the time he does public comment. As it so happens, Akbar, our acting chief of OCI, and Willie Bell are very, very close friends. And Willie Bell
Willie Bell keeps a tight hold on his affiliates, doesn't he?
Oh, very much so. And he's been trying to slow walk. They've been slow walking the process of like Lawrence Akbar and Melanie White. They've been working like out of class at acting positions for 2 years or better, mainly because I think Willie Bell likes it that way. And we've been having this rotating chair between Willie Bell and Lisa Carter for years. I was almost shocked when Reverend Holly got in this last time. But
so let's
Willie
talk
Bell
a little
still
bit
acts
about.
like he's in charge, though.
Let's talk about what our expectations. So, just as residents of the city of Detroit, do you expect for the issue of suspending of powers for any Spivey, Ayers, or Benson to actually be presented at the table at all?
No.
The council?
No. The mayor needs their votes for some of these rubber stamp deals. So they're not going to say anything.
You think the rubber stamping will continue?
The rubber stamping will continue. On that board and on our Board of Police Commissioners, we got a bunch of rubber stamps.
Do you think that Detroiters in large enough numbers will come out and demand suspension of privileges, like especially voting or to be able to conduct and chair subcommittees? Because these are just the standards and the things that happen in other cities. They just don't, I haven't seen them actually happen in the city of Detroit in quite some time. Do you think that the Detroiters will come out and have that demand? Or do you think that this will turn around and be they're just targeting them because they're Black? I mean, they have been to other cities, the FBI, they were just in Macomb. Didn't they just get somebody in Oakland County? So I don't know about that, or even though I feel like the system is not set up in our favor. Now, I'm going to stand on that. Even though I don't support the behavior of any of these council people because of what they're doing to the people, I will say this: I don't think the system is set up to be fair, right? Not for our people. But at the same time, do you think Detroiters are fed up with the corruption?
Well, we probably should have regular protests, not just at not just at the Coleman A. Young building, but we should go to people's houses and demand that they step down or step away from any committee assignments.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think Detroit is just the path to least resistance? It seems that these people who have an entanglement with not just the law, but the federal government seem to just say, well, you know what, I can't go anywhere else, but I always can go to Detroit. You know, it's the path of least resistance. Is that something, when I take a look at the charter, you know, after 3 years, I do, like, one of the reasons why I ran is because of the ambiguity within the language, right? There are some loopholes in there. There are some gaps that allow for certain behaviors not to be addressed. I will say that. But for the most part, I just see a government that is just running roughshod over by abusing their power. I see a lot of that going on. So it's not necessarily that they don't know the rules, they don't know the laws, they don't understand the policies and ordinances in place. It's just that there's such a lack of accountability. You know,
well, I don't see it, Governor. I see a criminal enterprise.
Woo! All right. All right. I could go with that.
I'm waiting for them to go past the dime.
It seems to be consistent. It seems to be consistent, but I don't know if people understand the impact. This is directly impacting their quality of life. That's an issue as well, right?
Yes.
Do they really understand how the decisions that are being made at the table of impact their quality of life? Detroiters really could lead a better quality of life. And I don't mean, listen, don't get me wrong, nothing is going to be perfect. I'm not saying that, you know, if you get all new leadership that, you know, will solve all the ills of the city of Detroit. But what I am saying is that the intentional behavior to restrict so many Detroiters from access to opportunities, sustainable communities, access to economic resources. I mean, it's mind-boggling, but either people don't want to vote, or when they vote, what I hear is a lot of people, they don't know what's going on, right? And so that's why I think it's so important to have these conversations. Like, a lot of people never knew that Willie Bell was the sole person, a commissioner on a committee about towing contracts.
Right. Well, you know, the city of Detroit has a very, very poor record, especially since the Detroit bankruptcy. You know, and I think they got this little coercion going on where they're not telling on each other, because they both, all of them, I think, and I think it's more than the people has been identified, know about stuff. And anytime you have somebody that could be indicted and you have other council people defending them, and don't get me wrong, because some of the people I may actually like a little bit that's been defending people, starting with Gabe, you know, you start questioning them too. I do.
Yes. Well, now he's gone, and you know what? He'll probably resurface somewhere.
Yeah.
He'll probably resurface somewhere. You have the sad thing will be, again, you know, a lot of times the first person who speaks gets the best deal. So what will that mean for Andre Spivey, who's been cooperating for over a year, and then now something's going to shake up with 4 more people, you know, speaking to the feds, and we don't know if that will mean another council member on there, and I don't know if they will say anything before the November 2nd election. But we have seen this pattern of right.
They should.
Yeah, I hear you. I think some people are tired and they're fed up, but
I think they should be looking at the board of police commissioners, the city council, the clerk, and the mayor's office. Well, they probably are.
I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, just listening to the fact that Willie Bell was engaged in meetings as the chair and as a member of the board of police commissioners solely alone with these contractors and with the other powers that be around towing. And towing is the biggest issue that we hear right on the table. That's just what we're being told right now on the table. It's probably other things that are in the pipeline, but just to know that, and to know we had a council person that was just recently indicted around bribery around towing, and it's being brought up again around other council people. I don't know how long it will be before Willie Bell will be questioned, or maybe we don't know. Maybe he already working with them too. Andre Spivey was working with the feds for 15 months and nobody knew it. You don't know. Maybe Willie Bell is as well, because Andre Spivey didn't change his voting behavior either. If you think about, for somebody to be working with the feds and you just voted to give away your power over approving almost $1 billion, $500 million, right? That'll be coming down a pipeline. That's questionable. If you look at Andre Sykes' voting record, he's still been voting consistently with Mayor Duggan. That's why I don't think that anybody's going to really say anything about Mayor Duggan. I don't know. It might be far-fetched. He has a strong hold on them. That's the bottom line.
You know, because he has one on. He might got more dirt on them than they got on him.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll see. We know that.
But Mayor Duggan's been involved in questionable practices since the 1990s. Just remember those contracts he had with the schools and stuff was highly questionable. You know, he has a long history.
You look at his behavior with Wayne County. He was under investigation there, and then he.
Can you name one place he wasn't up under investigation? Name one place he wasn't up under investigation since the 1990s. Name one place, can you?
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, nobody can.
That's fair. That's fair. I can't name any place that he wasn't under federal investigation, but it seems to work out for him. So I do think that Detroiters need to be a little realistic. Right now, he has a couple of open federal investigations. If you think about it, with this demolition, when the Fed spoke, and when you look at the reports, they never said that these investigations were ever closed. Right. They never said that they were closed.
Duggan's dad was a U.S. federal judge appointed by Ronald Reagan.
Yes, he was. And he came up under the McNamara regime. And so, like I said, he came out from the Wayne County, the investigation, and what he committed to not running for so many years for office, and he didn't. He just moved on to DMC. He dismantled DMC, tore that apart. Then he came on over here to the city of Detroit. I mean, hey, he keeps it moving. I'll give him that much. But if you really think about it, he has several investigations that are open. Nothing happens to him. I haven't heard about them raiding his office or his home in Livonia or Novi. So I don't know what we'll get. I don't know what we'll get. Are you saying he doesn't live here? Well, we know he doesn't live here. He doesn't have to live here because the majority of Detroiters don't hold him accountable. You know, that's our fault.
If he doesn't live here, supposedly he should be able to get kicked off the ballot.
Yeah, well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Good luck with really believing that these council members, if they're charged or if they're right now cooperating with the feds, that they will give the feds the big fish. I just don't know. It doesn't seem to be reflective of their behavior. I mean, my goodness, Gabe Leland had been voting for years on council under investigation, and he kept voting to support, rubber stamp whatever the mayor wanted.
The mayor needed this vote
about him.
The mayor needed this vote so you can have a couple other people. They could be voting against what's good for the people. But you have some people, they could vote against the mayor and still don't have to worry about anything as long as they know they got Gabe and Ayers and Vincent and others in line.
Well, we'll see. I do think it's a sad day when we have so many elected officials and almost a quorum. Again, almost a quorum of elected officials on council that are under, FBI investigation. It's one thing I would assume. I don't really know how this works. So let me just say that I'm just saying this based off of my opinion. I would think that even as a constituent, it's one thing to see them go to the offices or to question these elected officials, which that could have taken place, right? I don't know if they had to raid their homes and their offices unless they had something or unless they refused to cooperate. And even though I do not support the behaviors of any of these council people who are cooperating or whatever with communicating with the FBI, I will say this. I don't know if they would have refused to cooperate and instead have them have the FBI come and raid their homes and to raid their offices. So with that said, that is one thing that does lead me to believe that there may be something there that the FBI is looking into as far as their behavior. But we are barely recovering from the national news story of a Black mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick. I mean, they tore him apart, right?
That's
They
so we
had
can get a white mayor. That was so that we could get a white mayor.
I agree with you.
The stage
it had to happen to get a white mayor. It had to happen to get they had to just totally destroy the credibility of black leadership as the mayor of this city. And you know what, they knew that just doing it locally wasn't going to be good enough. So they did it nationally, which means that you had people, your friends, family, colleagues, associates from all across the country calling saying, what's going on there? Oh, I can't believe you had this type of corruption going on. So that's one part. And if there is an attempt to ensure that we have a lighter hue of council as a majority, I could see this being the same strategy. Like that had to happen to Kwame in order to get Duggan in. And Duggan was right there, lock, stock, and barrel. He was a part of it to make sure that Bing didn't run for re-election so he could get in there. And all he had to do was, I mean, he ran against Benny, and we're not going to talk about that. But really and truly, it's the same strategy if you think about it. If they want a majority of council that is of a lighter hue, and they don't even need a majority, because if you just get a few on there, you got a majority of Black people who are already giving away our interests, right? But if they do want more of a council that's of a lighter hue
and a different race, sellouts, right?
This is the way to do it. This is the way to do it, is to show publicly that you have a super majority of corrupt Black leadership on council. This is the way to do it.
And I think the raids also, I think they already had stuff on both of them, Janae Ayers and Scott Benson and their staff. But this is probably to make sure that they tell more and they do more and they cooperate more. Because, you know, that was them stepping up. They were stepping up what they was doing, because I'm sure they both knew it was under investigation.
Well, I think that absolutely. They received some type of notification that this was going to happen, and they ran anyway. I'm going to keep making that point. That they ran. The feds don't seem to take kindly to when you under investigation for you running for re-election, right? Because wasn't that one of the reasons that the FBI, you know, that was one of the conditions that they put in place for Kwame, is my understanding. Yeah. I guess that was one of the conditions for Mike Duggan too, back when he was with the county and he waited it out. So the FBI doesn't seem to take kindly to those running for re-election, especially if they're coming to them under investigation. But also, I think that there was something that was said, whatever Gabe Leland said led them, of course, to Spivey, but whatever Spivey said, it must have been more powerful than what Leland was saying. You know, it's like a domino effect. That's what I'm trying to say. Whatever Spivey said, once he figured out that the feds were not done with him, or what he thought was the agreement, and because he had been cooperating, they say Spivey had even started paying back some of the money. So he kind of thought that they were all good. He was just going to not run for re-election and do whatever he needed to do. But now, since that didn't work, it just seems mighty suspicious that just a couple of weeks right after that, now the feds are raiding 2 more of his colleagues' homes and offices, and their chiefs of staff, like they did him.
To get them to roll over more.
Wow. Well, I don't know. It's scary. Let's take a caller. Good morning. Welcome to the Nicole Small Show. Oh, that's TJ.
Good morning.
Hey, how you doing?
Listening at y'all conversation, sitting up here scratching my head. let's just be real with this. I'm just, you know, everybody has an opinion, and I don't know how many times. This is our problem right here. The root of the problem is we keep electing these people. That's the problem. Mike Duggan couldn't do what he does if our elected leaders didn't do what they did.
Yeah.
That's the main problem. But number one, we don't hold our elected, well, no, I take it back. Very few of us hold our elected leaders accountable. To the point that we're so mad, we're looking like we're hostile to the environment because we know the truth. This stuff is self-explanatory. I'm just gonna be very clear with you. Things couldn't happen if these elected leaders that we put in place didn't agree to it. They had to be voted on. That's number one. Number two, it's really sad that we just got out of a criminal investigation to the point that our mayor was dragged through the mud. And we sit up here pointing like, that's because we wanted the white mayor. No, he took the fall for that. And let's just be very clear. Who was sitting on the front row when our mayor that they dragged through the mud said, I do, this second time around? We use city dollars because they had this in a team to protect the mayor to sit on the front row. I want you to really think about that. We can sit up here and play these games if we want to and keep going back and forth like pointing the fingers. The finger ain't pointing nobody but at us.
I agree with that. I agree.
I'm not going to sit up here and keep upholding, you know, I love some of our people very well, but it's at some point in time, we got to stop this.
But
we have to stop. Let me tell you something. I sit up here and listen about people with the school. I'm reading your thread. I'm listening to people talking about the school board. I'm sitting up here listening to people talking about the board of police commissioners. But at the same person, the very person that was sitting at the table, we elected and put in there. That's the problem. If you had your hand in the cookie jar one time, you ain't sitting at the table no more. Now we got people running around here wanting to elect somebody who had their hand in the cookie jar. Make sense of this. Make sense of it. I'm not saying that they don't have a valuable input. I'm not saying that they made a mistake, but at this point, your hand can't be touching nothing talking about a vote for me. Past tense, future. Once you cross that path and you start, because if your hand been in the cookie jar, you're already viable. You're already in a problem position. Because they watching you, and for you to go do something stupid. For them to allow Gabe to sit there, all of them was quiet because they know their hands have been in the cookie jar.
Well, if they were quiet then, they definitely gonna be quiet now. I mean, you have 3 more elected officials of their colleagues. I don't see. So let me say this. What about the lack of integrity, right? And the fail. No, that's right. That's what I was gonna say, because isn't it your
right along with the pastors? It's all gone.
But isn't it your responsibility as a representative, as an elected official for your constituents, to make sure that, you know what, you have integrity at the table? So shouldn't this be a conversation about suspending the privileges of some of these? I mean, even Spivey, he said he's been cooperating for 15 months.
Listen. All that, everybody telling on each other, they're going to do that. At the same token, we just went through this, and we were supposed to elect these people not to do what was done before, right? We didn't do nothing but elect the same kind of people to go back in there to do the same thing they just did 12 years ago that they alleged caused the bankruptcy. We just went through this. We just went through water. Detroit water been under federal government since 1976. So how the hell the feds let all this stuff happen? It's bigger. That just didn't happen just because they wanted to push that Great Lakes Authority. The feds have been over the water department. Am I lying, Mr. Davis?
The feds have been looking at the water department for decades. In fact, it was up under federal review up until Duggan.
That's what he said. He said they've been looking at the water department for decades.
Okay, so with that being said, how did all these deals go through like this if the feds were supposed to be watching?
Wow.
Who is Robin C. This bigger than that? And where everybody talking about Duggan, look, it's gonna have to be so much evidence to take Duggan down, because Duggan already done been up to, he already done been to DC. So let's call them those people up there to come down here to investigate this. And I'm talking about going through Biden administration. He already done been up there. They think he's doing great. He went and played his foundation. So it's gonna have to be overwhelming evidence. What we're gonna do is take out our own people again. So this time, maybe we can put some people in place that's gonna hold him accountable so he can't do what he's doing.
That no mayor can do what is happening.
Exactly.
I think we keep electing people who, I can't say that they don't understand their power, because if you think about it, we hear so many people, the city council has no power. No, I disagree. They just don't activate their power, which is the problem that I have with some of the people in the community, is that we don't activate our power collectively to ensure that there are more protections around the interests of the people. That we have, that's what I'm talking about today at 11 o'clock. If there's going to be a press conference outside the federal building, like, let's see how many people show up. It should be the people from the community talking about, hey, we are tired of this. We are not going to tolerate it. But see, we also have another problem. There are some people in our own community that believe that if you speak against this type of egregious behavior, then you're selling out your own Black people. No, we are speaking against egregious behavior of those who have conducted themselves over and over and over again to disempower and to further disenfranchise our communities across this own city. They had the information. They could have made a different decision, and they didn't do it. I'm not even talking about the bribery.
That's the bottom line. That's the bottom line, because here's the thing. Everybody was supposed to be eating. Not just y'all, everybody. The communities were supposed to be eating. The communities were supposed to, all that money that came in within the last decade, Detroit could have rebuilt itself without corporate interests.
Yeah. Without giving away the land and the resources.
Have the stuff they did. Here's the thing. I don't have a problem with, I think people misunderstand something. They need to understand something. Dan Gilbert built up downtown. The city of Detroit did not build up downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Those are facts. So if the city didn't use the money up to build up downtown, what they got for all the poor people that live in 48207 off of King Homes, or out of all the projects that they particularly own within the city limits. You mean to tell me that those people can't get their communities rebuilt as well? Understand, some are gone. We understand that. They wiped out half of Brightmoor on Outer Drive. Half of Brightmoor on Outer Drive, on the Outer Drive side, came through, houses was burnt up. They let it deteriorate just like they let down there Cass Corridor. It was already deteriorating. They let it go on to the west side, but they got money to fix that up back then. So all this was by design. I have a problem with our city councils. If the Images was supposed to build affordable housing, and we need to work to change the whole mindset of affordable housing.
No. We need to change the behaviors of council, because when they didn't. That's right. Because when they didn't do, wait a minute, when they didn't, let's think about it. That was an agreement, right? So when they didn't provide affordable housing, you go back and you make them do it. But they're not going to do it because no one says anything. And so then again, it makes me wonder, what did they give you for your silence? Like, it is clear that it's clear that an empty parking lot is not affordable housing. That's clear to anyone, right? So what did they give you for your silence for a breach of this agreement?
And that goes back to our city council. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because affordable housing should have been dealt with. Because here's the thing. You call and say affordable housing, you might get a response. You call and say Section 8. They don't talk to you.
But they will talk to council, because listen,
exactly.
the images are not done coming to council and to the mayor's office for benefits. They're not done, right? So even if they were, this is a breach of an agreement. This was publicly, I don't care if it wasn't written, it was written in the newspaper, and it was, and they had press conferences, they had a spokesperson around this, both the council and the Illiches. So now that makes it a viable agreement. And what I'm saying is when they breach that agreement, you're going to tell me that we don't have one doggone council person who even brought a motion to the table to address this issue. Now, what does that say?
It says a lot.
What does that say? That says that they.
Here's the thing. At this point in time, the mindset should be this. You know, I tell people all the time, let's take out the equation of names and put up what they've done and what they haven't done in those communities. And put the names to them. It's self-explanatory. It's not about if I like you personally or not. It's about, have you done what you were elected to do? No,
you know what? It's about these people who have endorsed these individuals this go round. You don't need, are we going to see a statement from the UAW, from SEIU, from Unite Here, from the Council of Baptist Pastors? Are we going to see, I know we're not going to see one from the chamber. Are we going to see a statement from the Detroit News, the Detroit Free Press? Are we going to see it from Fannie Lou Hamer? Are we going to see a statement from them?
We should be demanding statements from them.
Okay, so let's just, are you think all of these people going to admit that they were wrong?
No. That's my point.
That means, that lets me know that you're part of the problem too.
That's my point.
That's what lets me know that you're a part of the problem too. So here you go from a nonprofit or a political education standpoint to supporting corruption. I mean, really, would somebody make sense of that?
No. Well, I mean,
you can't make sense of
that. But that's my point.
First term.
The council enables the mayor, and it's too much of the community. It's not all of the community, but it's too many people who are in the community, or you don't even have to be in a community. You could just have influence over people in the community that enable this behavior of the council. It's like a domino effect. And that's what I'm saying. You really and truly should be hearing from these organizations who have endorsed, and I don't care. A lot of them knew that these two were under a federal investigation. What is the 14th going to say? What is the 13th going to say? You know that these are our congressional districts. And what are you going to say about this type of behavior? You know what they're going to say? Probably nothing, but it should be the members. Hold on. It should be the members of those organizations who should push for them to say something. That's my only point. But we got to go. It's 9:20 and I got to get out of here. But thank you so much for calling in.
All right.
Bye-bye. All right, Bill Davis. So today at 11 o'clock, 477 Michigan Avenue, we will see what the response from the people are. Anthony Adams is holding a press conference along with other members, other Detroiters who are simply fed up and want to talk about the corruption taking place. So again, that's today at 11 a.m., 477 Michigan Avenue in front of the Federal Building. Maybe we'll see some people we know going inside there. Who knows?
Maybe.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back here tomorrow at 8 a.m. on the Nicole Small Show. Look, Nicole Small Show. Be safe and have a great day, everybody.
Goodbye.